The area of your life most likely to buckle under stress and cause a domino effect where it degrades every other area of your life is really your mental and emotional health. Really, there's an interplay between mental health and physical health. They go back and forth, but mental health is one of those critical key components. And basically, the reason for this is whatever the stress, the financial stress, family stress, business stress, etc., poor health, that's all going to affect your mental health, which will reduce your capacity in all of these other areas, unless you have some pretty powerful, resilient mental routines to help you handle stress. And that is exactly what I'm going to talk about, how to be mentally resilient so that you can keep relatively calm, so that you can regain composure in difficult situations and have the mental clarity and energy to cope with challenges rather than buckling under them and letting things snowball. Hi, I'm Alec from Easier Habits, and I coach overthinking entrepreneurs in how to turn their anxiety and overwhelm into unstoppable execution. So one of the biggest bodies of evidence at this point for general mental health and resilience would be meditation, and that is something I have used in many different forms in the past. I mean, basically, most common forms of mindfulness meditation have in common one thing, that you are redirecting your mind to focus on a particular thing, whether that's breath, whether that's kind of body awareness, whether that's labeling your thoughts. There's all sorts of different forms of this. There's just listening to sounds, but not labeling the sounds, listening to the quality of the sounds, being present, etc. You could, technically pretty much do the same thing with food, right? Really tasting and enjoying the food that you're eating. There's focusing on a candle flame. It's kind of a more visual one. Very different, they appear very different, but that's all redirecting your mind from like the random places it wants to go to one particular stimulus. And what this does in practice is it is the ability to break a chain of thought and focus on what you want to focus on. And this is obviously crucial when you're stressed out as an entrepreneur. You're going to have these worries that cycle over and over and over again. You might have a voice in your head telling you that you're not enough, that you can't handle this, that this is the worst thing ever, and it's just replaying that. I think an interesting thing about Sam Harris, who's big into meditation and who has supported that, is he says that our mind is often like being kidnapped by the most boring person in the world who tells the same stories over and over and over again. So meditation is being able to break that story and focus on what you choose to focus on. And, that is directly relevant, right? When you are facing physical stress and not feeling good, instead of being able to focus on how bad you feel, being able to focus on your business and working on that to the capacity that you have that is healthy, then, that is basically meditation in action. If you are new and starting out and you feel insecure, you feel like you're not good enough, your brain will be telling yourself, especially with the things that are difficult or new, you're not good enough on repeat. If you practice meditation, you can label that thought, for example, for the thought labeling meditation, or simply redirect that back to, I can worry about that later. What I'm working on right now is market research, mastering my pitch, etc., improving the quality of my goods and services for my current clients, right? And refocus. So meditation is great at that. There is one downside, however, which is generally that meditation, to arrive at a point where it feels good and restful, usually takes practice. In fact, a good subset of people who start meditation actually get stressed out, in my experience, because they think meditation is about being Zen, and when their mind travels in different directions, they actually get more stressed because they judge themselves. And I think here, one of the important things to reduce that effect is to recognize that it's not the sitting in peace and calm that's great, but that's a side effect. Meditation is the recognizing your brain has gone off, maybe even on a long spiral of thoughts. Maybe it was a minute ago and your brain has just been snowballing. But that action of bringing your awareness back to your intended focus, that is meditation, that piece. And in a certain sense, the more your brain goes in all these crazy directions and you have to bring it back, the more real practice you are getting in your meditation. And so that is one of the mindsets that helps with meditation. But I would say one of the reasons why this is a preparation to be resilient when you are in stress is that for most people it takes practice. And so it's something I've practiced at various points. I have to admit, I don't have like one crucial silver bullet that is like the meditation that I always do that really works for me. I have a few of them that I've tried out, but the current incarnation that has been really powerful for me actually is just 5 minutes of breath meditation with my wife after recovery, because we both realized we were super stressed and we wanted to hold a space together to seek joy even in the challenges, right? And kind of change that attitude. And so we let out our stress, our emotion in the morning, and we do a meditation, and then we talk about how we're going to find joy that day, whether that's in the work that we do or being more present in certain aspects of it, or even taking a break and doing something fun. So actually more on that, there's a link below that you can check out for me and my wife actually talking about that and how that helps us with stress. So that meditation has been incorporated into a part of that as the current incarnation. I encourage you to experiment with a lot of different forms of meditation because some will resonate with you more than others. Even if you haven't done it, haven't found something that works for you in the past, try a few different ones. And also keep the meditation short. Don't start meditating like half an hour at a time. Do 5 minutes. Even 5 minutes can be pretty powerful. So there's a lot of evidence for that. It's very powerful. It does take some practice. So that this is an ideal strategy if you are not under stress right now. Doesn't mean it can't help you if you make some time for it, but it's not like as much an emergency thing that you can do right now. Now, on the flip side, there is something that I think is easier to implement, works quicker, and is also very powerful, and there's plenty of evidence for, which is the second strategy, gratitude. So gratitude basically works by flipping the script. Humans have a negativity bias. We look for things that are wrong. Intentionally making time to be grateful for something flips that around. And the trite saying, neurons that fire together wire together, right? The more you practice gratitude, the easier it will be for your mind to find the good in things. And that will take stress off your plate, and it will help you identify opportunities that you're ignoring when you're focusing only on the bad. Now, I have actually seen this work with my kids, even in the space of 10 items of gratitude. So if they're really grumpy, occasionally I've challenged them to think of 10 things that they're grateful for. And the first one is like pulling teeth. And the second one, pretty similar. But I find usually by around the fourth one, it starts coming easier, and like numbers 5 through 10 come as quickly as the first one did, right? And that is an example of they're literally right there in that moment changing their brain state. And it is becoming easier for them to find things that they enjoy, find things that they're grateful for. And then, of course, if you practice, that becomes easier over time. So the first thing, looking for the first item that you're grateful for becomes easier, even if you're originally angry, etc. So I have seen how that can work. I mean, without a ton of practice, even in the moment, to change your brain state from one that is angry, frustrated, anxious, to one that is calmer, more grateful, more hopeful, I think, by extension. So gratitude is a second strategy you can employ for mental resilience, and it's great because it usually works pretty quickly. Again, like 10 items, I think I've seen a difference. There have been times where I really wanted to work on this, and I got like the 108 or something, whatever, Tibetan prayer beads, and I will go through and thumb each bead and think of something I'm thankful for. That takes a lot of work to think of 108 unique things that I'm grateful for. It takes some time, but it is a very powerful exercise. And that when I really double down and do that, that becomes a happier time period for me. Now, to be honest, another thing that does have a lot of evidence, But for me, which is personally the most powerful, is prayer slash my relationship to the divine. So my whole life has been framed to a certain extent by the fact that I do believe in God. And that has really given me two benefits I've realized in my life. One is believing in an all-knowing, all-loving God is a source of infinite love that I can tap into. And that was specifically helpful for me in over the summer when I was spread very thin, working on the business, keeping up things around the house. My kids were home for the summer, wife bedridden, and my kids weren't feeling like they got enough attention. And one of the things that I realized is instead of me being the sole source of all love that to fill their endless buckets and need for attention, right? I could teach them the tools they need to start to feel that love and tap into that love that is always there. So that was really powerful for me and has been at many points in my life, especially the most stressful points. And the other reason that religion and specifically having a relationship with God has been helpful for me is it changes my relationship to both obstacles and to my goals. And I should say, it changes obstacles and goals into a relationship, right? Not only can I think, what can I learn from this? But in prayer, I can ask Heavenly Father to teach me what I could learn from this or guide me in learning from this. Now, if you are not religious, there are things you absolutely can do to kind of get some of these benefits. For example, you can talk to yourself, coach yourself, etc. I've read Tara Brach's Radical Compassion, where in that particular example, she talks about thinking about your higher or best self and getting, guidance and comfort from that. So there are things you can do. For me, that is just less powerful than believing in an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God. But again, there's kind of a critical aspect there that you can get some of that benefit if you are spiritual but not religious, or even if you're not spiritual. So, this also changes my relationship to goals. So one of the things I notice when I have a goal, which in and of itself, there's this place that you want to be and you're not there, that can be a stressful place. That very often is a stressful place for me. I put a lot of stress on myself. And if other things are difficult in life, it can be discouraging to have goals and to try and grow. Instead of comparing myself to other people or putting all of the responsibility on myself to achieve that goal, in prayer, I take a moment out to consider some other things. And it really helps to remember that there are outside things, good things that can happen to you. And again, you could believe that if you are not spiritual. But at the same time, for me, I find that belief in Heavenly Father does as an active agent, as someone who is giving good things to me and wants me to have good things, but also is going to let me pass through difficult times so I can learn and grow. Like, that combination helps me have kind of the balance that, all right, what I'm passing through is something I can learn and grow with. I can experience help. I can experience support. That relationship is very real to me. And then also, and this was the number one thing over the summer where I felt like I was just responsible for it all, and that helped the most. I just realized I am not responsible for all of this. I will do the best that I can, but there could be something amazing that happens that completely beyond my control. And I've seen ways that this has happened in my business. For example, one of my early videos with my wife about a reflexive listening exercise, some website linked to it, and as a result, it got more attention and it gets recommended more than any of my other videos. Now, that's not something that changed my whole business or even my YouTube channel overnight, but it does remind me again that a lot of times we work really hard thinking that we are the genesis of all of the good that comes into our life. And whether you're spiritual or not, taking a moment out to consider all of the good that can come into your life and has come into your life without you doing all the work can be really helpful. It can be helpful to like bring my ego down a little bit. It can be helpful to be grateful. It can help in a number of ways. Now, this is kind of nebulous, right? Like have a relationship with God or have a relationship with the universe, whatever you want to say. It seems nebulous. What a lot of studies have focused on is specifically the ritual of prayer, and prayer very often includes a helpful mantra, visualization of visualization of something positive, like a loving being listening to you. It can very frequently involves gratitude, and it involves thinking through what you need sometimes and asking for it. So all of those things can be things that help that kind of actually put together a sort of meditative exercise, taking your brain away from material things and thinking about like the spiritual for a moment. That can be a very meditative act, and you could incorporate some meditation into your prayers. You can incorporate gratitude, but it also, I think, adds this extra step of creating a relationship there, a relationship to something beyond yourself. And that has been hugely powerful in my own life. It was while I was going through the stress this summer, probably the number one thing that kept me from going crazy and just, keep going, doing what I can, and recovering from setbacks. There are 3 practices that you can try out. I don't recommend you implement them all at once. Try one and start small. 5 minutes at a time, if you haven't been doing this before, is great. So, as always, make big changes, one small habit at a time.